Let's do this thing.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I am here with the legendary Harry Eshleman.
I don't know about legendary, but here I am.
So for those of you that don't know Harry or John, I guess, both of them have been my friends for a very long time. John is DJ Saga Genesis, for everybody that listens to our music, and Harry is the most supportive person that has been in our proximity since we've started. I mean, we really, first off, I wanted to thank you for everything that you've done kind of publicly, because we definitely couldn't.
I was just doing what, I figured had to be done. I don't want to be like that about it, but I mean, I enjoy doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
I really do,
That's kind of like what I thought,
Oh, you want to go closer? Okay.
Yeah, a little closer.
Oh! Ooh. Watch out. I think it's because it's stretched out too far. Just move the whole... Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, there you go. There you go.
A little bit of technical difficulty there. Sorry.
I just really enjoyed doing it, only because, I'm sure that someplace in my past, I wish I had done something like that too. So, I mean, it's,
So you, okay, so how old are you now, if I may ask?
I'm 66.
66, and
Yes,
still
sir.
young.
And still feeling young and doing whatever I did when I was, well, not as fast, but,
I mean, to be honest, you seem like one of the happiest people I've known, to be honest with you.
Well, life has been, aside from, I guess, you know what happened with John and everything, and, and I had other
For those of us that don't know, what happened with John?
Well, we were in a car accident, and, he took the worst of it all, so he's paralyzed and in a wheelchair, and, it just, it sucks.
I can't imagine how it must feel to be a father going through that, though.
Yeah, it's tough, but you got to remember though, it's not really me.
It's John. Yeah,
John.
but you are there for him, and you're there for us, and you were there you're there all the time, anytime he needs anything.
Well,
and
I would just, I know that if I was ever doing anything like that, and I know my dad supported me in a lot of things I've done, so I guess that's just the way I was raised. I don't know, but I did the same thing with John. Well, obviously, when he was playing guitar, I was supporting him with that, and whatever he needed for that, I was.
Did you always want John to play guitar?
No, not really. That was not my. He just. Now turning about John, but no, I didn't always necessarily want him to play guitar, and it never really crossed my mind. It was just the fact that
John loved music.
I think it was he just seen a guitar at a yard sale, and he wanted his mother to buy it, and she bought it for him, and
he was amazing, to be honest with you.
Yeah, he was pretty. Yeah, he was good, but so and it just went off from there, and I guess I seen that he
was gifted
in that respect, and I supported that. I years ago, I took piano lessons, I took guitar lessons, and I don't know whether it's because I just didn't have the talent or whatever, or the drive or whatever, or the desire at the time to do it, but I never really got that good.
Right. I feel like it take to have a kid that's as talented as John is, or still is, as talented as John is. You kind of need a parent to be as supportive as you were. If you weren't there, not only buying him fucking equipment, but enabling him to be loud in the basement.
Right.
We used to just be loud in the basement when we were kids.
Oh yeah, but you were kids.
Yeah.
Just
the ability to mess around with instruments and be stupid was just the best gift that we could have gotten. And like kids don't appreciate it when they're, you know.
But parents have to look at it like that. I mean, something like that. Okay, maybe at times it may be annoying. I mean, I know the times when you guys were down there banging on drums or whatever. I mean, yes, it was annoying because I'm trying to watch something on TV, but you know, I would have rather had you guys down there doing that, and even doing what you're doing now. I mean, as you know, chasing that down as other stuff that you know.
Yeah, no,
your age would be doing.
Kids get bored, especially in small towns like this. It's easy to get bored and find yourself doing something either you shouldn't be doing or that's just plain stupid in general.
Right. Well, like I said, I mean, times don't change much as far as you know, teenage angst and growing up and all that other stuff. You know, I mean, I grew up in a lot different time. Well, I don't know whether it was particularly different, but I grew up in the when I was an early teen. I mean, what the heck was it? It was probably late 60s, early 70s, you know, when I was a young teen.
That's such an awesome, like that's one of the things I wanted to talk about because that has to have been such an interesting time to have developed into an adult. Like you saw rock and roll develop into like what people would identify rock and roll to be.
To be, yes.
Like,
I know I've talked with you about that before. I mean, like the first record I bought was a 45 of the Stones back in '65.
Which record? Which
Painted Black.
Awesome.
I forget what was on the flip side, but I know the other side was Painted Black, and like that. It might have been Mother's Little Helper. It was on the other side, actually, which it might have been. I'm not too sure.
But, like, those are, like, that's a song about, like, darkness, one song, and a song about drug addiction. And that in itself was not really happening. Those are two mainstream songs,
too. Something they didn't want out. You know, spoke about or
well, yeah, it happened, but it wasn't like the new. It wasn't like people weren't writing music about it and stuff.
Oh no. Well, that's like I said. Well, that was the difference. Well, like I said, we spoke about this before. I mean, that was the difference between like the Rolling Stones and the Beatles and some of the early British Invasion guys. You know, David Clark Five. I think they were American, weren't they? I don't know. I can't remember. But anyway, you know. The Stones were more like the bad boys, you know, of that era. And Eric Burton and the Animals.
Yeah, okay, the Animals definitely.
The Animals, I mean, they were, you know, and that was another one of my groups that I like to listen to. You know, I mean, I guess that's how I started. I started with rock, in the more, what's the word of it? What would you call it? But the more gritty side of rock is what I was into, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, you know? There's definitely always been, like, even with all genres of music, there's like a Beatles or a Stones, there's like a softer, more melodic kind of music, and then there's like the more like playing catch with a vibe kind of music, you know?
Well, maybe actually more honest, you know? I mean, I don't know. Maybe more honest.
It's definitely something. And even with like hip hop, like it started out, it was like hip hop, a hippie to the hippity, don't stop. And then like it turned into like people that were really going up and talking about like experiences and stuff like that.
Right.
So I definitely see like, I think music follows patterns. I think everything has like a pattern.
I think music's just an outlet for people. And it's a way to, I mean, you know, it's a way for people to express themselves, be it, you know, by however part of the music they do or whatever type of genre they choose, you know. It's a way for them to express themselves because, you know, when you're growing up or even just plain going through life, I mean, there's so many things that, you know, you I guess you often want to get out there. You just want to say, hey, you know, this is what happened to me, or this is how I feel right now, you know, and I guess it is. And music's
there for that.
Huh?
And music's there for that.
Yeah, and you know, it's a good way for people to express themselves, you know, and it's a backdrop for many people my age, I think.
Yeah.
You know, at this point, I mean, rock. You know, I mean, I listen to WMMR all the time, you know, or any rock station. That's mainly the music I listen to. But,
and it's just always on in the background. Like that,
yes.
that's how music was for me too, especially rock music. Like my mom just always had music playing, and like when I think of like some of the best times in my life, there's like almost always just music in the background.
Right.
You know what I mean? And like I read once that your favorite song is probably more attributed to like the times you've actually spent listening to it than the actual like song itself. You know what I mean?
I think a lot of this stuff is that, I guess it hits something unique. One song, I mean, the lyrics, or the tune of it, or the melody of it, for some reason or another. I mean, it strikes a chord in you. It was something that happened in your life, where you identify with it, and I think that's that's the part of like your favorite music or your favorite tune.
It's like a part of you at that point.
It's a part of you, but like I said, well, I know too. I mean, that's another thing with John. I mean, he grew up riding around with me in a big truck, big 4-wheel drive truck, in a car seat, and that's all he heard the whole time was rock, and everybody I hung out with had rock music on, and it's just and I think it's just something that permeates my life, your life, his life.
Yeah, that has to be like. Like I said, it's lucky to grow up around someone like you that gave John his love for music. Because do you think I'll ask you? Do you think John's love of music comes from you? Because my guess is it definitely probably did.
Well, I think maybe John's love of music might come from the thing of that it's something that me and him shared.
Right. Okay.
I mean, I don't know whether he realized, but
whether he agrees with that,
whether he agrees with that or not. But I think that's where it comes from, and I think that's what me and him have, and I enjoy that. I mean, we share our love of music, and it's something that we used to go out and buy old used record albums.
Yeah, I know.
Together.
He loves old records.
We used to go, and then, when he was playing guitar, I used to, or even before that, I mean, I would put something on a CD and go, oh, you know who this guy is? This is blah, 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 blah. And then maybe later on again, maybe a week later, something like that, I would put some CDs on and scramble them and play like fives. Hey, do you remember who all they were? And just... Yeah. Like, come on, and getting them to listen and try and remember, and which is pretty, I guess, but it just.
I mean, you did it the right way though. Like a lot of parents like try to force music on kids, and that's kind of why they tend to like have different opinions than their parents on music. But you like introduced John to it. You know what I mean? You were like more subtle with it. You're like, this is what I like, and I don't care what you like or whatever like that. But this is the kind of stuff I listen to.
Right.
And John, I think he really appreciated that. Like, John's introduced me to a lot of different kinds of music, and still to this day does. Like genres of music that I don't listen to. John,
there's a lot of things that amazes me. Like I said, I hate keep talking about them, but
hey.
but I mean that's a lot of the stuff there. I mean, it surprises me about him, but there's times where like, what the heck was it one time? He's probably gonna hate me when I tell you this story, but. He was always into metal.
Right.
Heavy metal and, screamo and all that or whatever, whatever you want to call it. And, one day he said something about Miley Cyrus. And I was like, what? Some big long-haired metal guy, but you like Miley Cyrus? I said, what? And he's like, yeah, well, she does. And, I mean, he was... honest about it.
That's what I've always loved about John is he's got a very complicated taste in music.
Oh yeah.
He even when he like sends beats, like it's just so different. It's a different approach to music, and it comes from having such a wide variety of influences.
Oh yeah.
That's part of what I think makes John so resilient as an artist is because like. He gets inspiration from everything. Yeah, exactly.
Well, I told him before when he was playing, even now, today, I tell him, I said, look, I said, whatever it is, music is music. Whether it be rock, whether it be jazz, whether it be
Good
hip-hop.
music, I think, is timeless.
Yes, music is music. And that's what I used to always tell him. So, I mean, I think that's why he may have that, wide variety. Because, I mean, we went to concerts to go listen to, kind of like a folky kind of angry woman. I mean, I forget who it was, but I mean, that's how I describe him. I mean, it's kind of crazy.
That sounds like something John would listen to, though.
Yeah, but it's like Joan Baez stuff. I mean,
I like Joan Baez a lot.
Yeah, so I mean, stuff like that.
Diamonds and rust,
yeah. So I mean, but it's life's interesting that way. I mean, I guess
So were your parents in love with music too, or was that kind of something you found yourself?
I think with music, it was just there. It was
a product of your environment.
It was the sound of the time.
Right. The 60s, 70s.
Yeah, that was what drove. The music was. The communication was the drive. Oh, excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
I think at that time was the driving force behind the social change that was happening, and that's what the music was.
You think the music drove the social change?
It communicated the social change.
Like it's both, I think.
It's like I mean, because the generation before me, yes, they had music, but I don't think it spoke to them in the way of make yourself change.
It wasn't political. It wasn't reflective. It wasn't
correct.
It was a lot of it like. A lot of the turbulence of the 60s and 70s led to counterculture movements. Right. Hippie movements, Black Panthers, like there were just groups of people, and these people needed music. Like right. That's just what happens when.
Well, music music defined them. I think.
Mm-hmm.
I mean.
And today too, what I mean. Same thing with.
Look at them all. Look at all the people as they came out, like the early 70s. Who was there? Crosby, Stills, Nash.
And Young.
Neil Young.
Young. I've seen Neil Young.
Oh, I've seen him too.
You should listen to the other podcast. My friend Brianna, she does a fantastic Neil Young cover at the end of it.
Really?
Yeah.
Cool.
You'd probably really like that.
Cool.
All right. So since we're trailing off a little bit, what do you think was the most significant event in your life? What shaped Harry Eshleman?
What shaped me? I'm just trying to think. I mean, as far as who I am today, I guess. Or
what changed? What was like a turning point for you, or something?
Well, I think maybe one of the things that made me who I am today was probably when I met my now wife, which we've been married.
I was hoping we get
40,
to talk about your love life.
40
years.
43?
43.
When's 77? It's 43 years.
Yeah.
Actually, we have an anniversary coming up this month.
Aw. So what are you planning for the anniversary? Anything special? Or is 43
I don't
years?
know. I really
Every
don't
day
know.
special.
It's kind of hard. I mean, we get along fine, and I mean, throughout the year or whatever, throughout the years, I mean, there's, she buys things for herself, and I don't, so I mean, a lot of times it's just, well, okay, I get her, a card, maybe something, just as long as I acknowledge that I remember.
Right.
I think is the big point.
Me and my girlfriend kind of have a very similar thing. We didn't, like this Valentine's Day, we didn't go out, you know what I mean? We were actually like, you're working, we don't, like, we can wait till next week, the week after, we'll go out then, you know what I mean? It's just about acknowledging that you care for each other. You know what I mean?
I think that's what it is, or that you remember. To remember special events,
Yeah, remembering them, and the more pressure you put on like special events, like if you need your anniversary to be like amazing, I think that like you're setting yourself up for failure too. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Like you should just enjoy each other's company, and if you can't enjoy each other's company, especially on the holiday, I think.
Oh yeah, and and don't expect, and I don't think expecting like that you go out and do a big deal about your anniversary or something like that is going to really change
anything
not change.
about it,
I wouldn't say change, but makes everything all better if you've been a dick all year or whatever. You know what I mean? You know, but you know.
What do you think? So what do you think? What was it like meeting your wife? How was that? Like, was it?
It's a funny story.
Is it a funny story? I'm glad.
Well,
I'm glad.
I wouldn't say funny in that respect, like haha funny. I mean, it's just she was dating a friend of mine.
Oof.
And yeah. Oof, it's kind of weird. But the guy, it was a friend of mine.
It happens. You know what I mean?
And you know, he wasn't.
Clearly, he was.
I
in
think
your
he was kind of an ass.
way.
But you know, I don't want to talk about that
talk
way.
bad about
It was a
anybody.
friend of mine. I mean, you know,
Right.
and you know, we hung out together. But
You won anyway.
I mean, basically, what you know, so me and my wife, it was kind of funny because at that time I was into drinking scotch. I was a scotch drinker.
Right. Okay.
And I would go out to the bars and sit there and drink scotch, you know, with a beer chaser. But you know, toward the end of the night, it got to be more scotch than it did beer. But you know,
that'll be it.
so that'd be it. But so you know, so she was at the bar with my friend, and you know, I guess I don't know. He was kind of like wandering around doing his own thing, you know, even though he was on there, supposed to be there with her. I don't know what you know. So. You know, I got to talking to her, and you know, realized she was a scotch drinker too.
Okay, so you bonded over whiskey.
Well, bonded over that, you know, and the fact that like, I talking to her, and you know, busting chops, I guess what you would say, or whatever, and
you just hit it off real quickly, you know.
Well, it's just that you know, I said a few things to her just to, you know, bust her chops about stuff. You know, it was like you would with a friend, you know.
Right.
You know, the friendly torment that you do to people. And,
mm-hmm.
and you know, she had a lot of good comebacks. I mean, you know, and I just had to tell her that. I said, "Geez," I said, "You know, you
matched your wit."
Yeah, I said, "You're really good at this." You know, I said, "Gee whiz," you know, and then, you know, we threw some things back and forth, you know, and I guess we just hit it off, you know. I mean, so I don't know how long we were kind of like them, kind of. I mean, let's put it. We started out as drinking buddies, I guess, is what it all started. You know.
Hey, I mean, if you can't be friends with them, right? You
Yeah.
probably can't.
And so, I mean, you know, so I mean, really, and she really did change my life because I mean, I think up until that point, you know, my whole view on life was, yeah, well, I partied a lot, probably a lot more than I should have, man. I'm not, you know, I don't really want to condone that kind of stuff because you know,
You're not like a party guy now.
No, I'm not a party guy now, but you know, look back at it, I see that, you know, a lot of the points in it that, like, you know, where it can lead, you know, if you're not reasonable,
clever,
about it, or if
yeah,
you're not wise, what's going on, you know, you gotta watch yourself, you know. I've seen many people go down that road and not come back.
We've had people on the podcast talk about stuff like that too. It's definitely a give and a take type of thing. You know what I mean? Yeah. At first it's like all pleasure, no pain, and then it's completely the opposite and you're stuck.
Right. So, but, you know, so we hit it off and, you know, and basically started living together and wound up getting married and, you know,
how was that? How old were you guys when you moved in together? And was it like a big deal back then? Or were your parents...
Yeah, it was, at that time, that was kind of...
Becoming the more normal thing.
Becoming the normal, you know, that was kind of the, you know...
The 60s
more 60s kind of hippie, you know, it was kind of that thing, you know. But, like, you know, before all that, I mean, my attitude about life was like I was just going to party until I got thrown in jail or died. I mean, I used to joke about it. You know, like I said, you know, my friends would go, geez, you know, and I would say, look, you know, I said, I'm probably going to be dead by the time I'm 35, so I really don't care.
See, I would be scared. See, that when people say shit like that, it really does make me, like, worried for their fucking...
Well, I mean, we would do a lot of
stupid shit.
A lot of stupid stuff. But I mean, it would, you know, I really don't want to say much, but I mean,
don't incriminate yourself. Yeah.
No, but party and have a good time, and it just
turns into something that's not good.
And sometimes it would. Sometimes, like, I've seen it turn into some pretty bad crap, and fortunately,
you came out.
I made it out the other end. I know guys that didn't make it out the other end.
What advice would you have for young guys that might be partying a lot now and might be finding themselves in that kind of situation? What would you tell them?
Just be smart. I mean, really. I mean, just be smart. And
you know what's right. You really.
Yeah, just try. Yeah, and just realize when it's time to get out. What's that song? Know when to hold them and know when to fold them. I mean,
know when to walk away.
I know I'm talking about cars, but just realize it.
Gambling, drinking, smoking, anything can mess your life up.
Just try and be aware of what's happening, and when you think it's getting too deep, I mean, you bet just get out. Don't drive yourself in any deeper.
Yeah.
I mean, because it's. And anymore, you don't know who I mean, even back then, I mean, you don't know who you were
really dealing with.
I mean, I wound up in situations where we were at a party, and I'm not going to, but
don't disclose too much.
Me and a friend of mine at a party, and naturally, partying, drinking.
Mm-hmm.
Having a good time. It was actually pretty neat. It was a graduation party. It was like was that the graduation party? No, it wasn't. But it was like a 3-day concert someone was putting on in some gravel pit. Now this is back in 71. Is somebody here?
I'm just gonna see if she's barking. Keep talking. My bad. Gravel pit.
I'll wait for you.
She's just barking. All right, so the
gravel pit, and partying away, and talking to some women, and and
living youth.
Yeah, and all of a sudden, a group of guys come up and go, "Hey, don't you know the women are with us?"
Oh, okay, that'll start a fight.
And we're like, "Whoa, hey, man, dude, I didn't know." I mean, And what are you going to do? I mean, at that point right there, I was lucky it didn't escalate any. Well, I wasn't going to argue with the guys. You know what I mean? And, it was wise not to. Like, hey.
Yeah.
Try and be amicable about it. Like, dude, I didn't know, I'm out. It's.
A lot of young people get into fights over things that could have been ended that night. Especially things like that, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but I mean, and it's really not. I mean, you just have to, I don't know, just try and be smart
and be a little nicer to people. Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, you didn't do anything there, but you were smart enough to be nice and not. You could have started a fight with those guys, and you made the right decision not doing that.
Right, because what was it going to prove? What was it going to prove?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it wasn't going to prove anything. And I'm sure there's a lot of people in my case would have done something just because they wanted to prove something. And what? I don't know.
It's usually like, it's just like, I'm tougher than you. It's like a dick wagging contest. Like.
And that, and all that stuff doesn't, I mean, I had a brother-in-law many years ago.
Right.
That, he wound up going to jail for good long bit of time. But I mean, just something like that. I mean, he would wind up getting into fights in bars. And he was.
It's a good way to go to jail over and over again.
Well, he was a big guy.
Probably won a couple of them.
He hung out with guys that were big, and I mean, there's a few crazy stories about that group of guys, but I mean, I watch people walk up to him in bars, and naturally,
yeah,
the fastest gun in the West and all that crap, kind of.
Yeah, he's a quick draw kind of guy.
I've seen him walk up to the guy and harass him, just because. they figured they were tougher than him. They heard he was tough, and they figured, and
Really? So he was
really,
so big, people would just try to fight him just because they wanted to.
Well, they heard he was tough, so they figured, hey, well, we're going to see if we can, we're going to show this guy that we're better than he is, and. Even that though, even at that, I mean, even my brother-in-law at that time, if he could have been smarter about it all then too, and went, look, man, dude, it's not right, but you're there drinking, you're not, you ain't thinking right.
Yeah, clearly. I mean, alcohol is like the number one inhibitor of bad decision making.
Oh yes, it brings on a lot of bad decisions.
Like. And sometimes it's funny, and when you're drunk, it feels funny. That's the craziest thing, is it's all funny until it's not funny. Like, I don't want to say anybody's name, but I have a friend of mine that got his teeth knocked out in a fight the other week.
Oh, yeah?
And, yeah, he has to get surgery and everything like that. And my tooth messed up because I got shot with an airsoft gun in the tooth.
Okay,
and,
right.
Like, it's crazy. Like, you could just, one fight, you could knock your whole teeth out. You could hit the concrete. You could,
Well, you could destroy your whole life. I mean,
yeah.
Come on, let's face it. I mean, anymore, something like that.
I was on camera.
If somebody gets injured,
it's over. It's over. It really, yeah. That's like, it's not worth throwing your life away. Like I used to get into fights when I was a kid, like a lot of fights. And recently, Alex had this girl over. And she lost her keys. This girl did not come inside the house. And she wasn't supposed to be here. She lost her keys in my backyard. I didn't know she wasn't supposed to be here. You know what I mean?
Right.
She didn't tell her parents that. She's 18. And her dad, her uncle, her brother, and her sister all came to my house and tried to fight me for these keys. Screaming in my face, telling me they know I stole her keys. This, and that. That called me all kinds of names under the sun. I've never dealt with anything like that. And I walked inside and I was like, should I fight them? And I was like, no, this is my house. They're they're causing problems on my property. I'm just gonna call the cops. Like, what the hell is this? Like,
it's all you can do.
And like, it felt like they were only doing it because I was younger. You know what I mean?
Could have been.
And it was just crazy. Even the police were like, I can't believe why would they think that you stole her keys?
Right.
Like, what? And I just, it was the strangest thing. But it's the lesson. It's like the older you get, the less worth it is.
Well, I think the older you get, the more you look back on it and go, geez, I did that and that was awful stupid,
Yeah.
I've done a lot. I don't know. I mean, my wife used to be surprised at me because, several instances, I mean, we lived in Pittsgrove, too, also on Buck Road.
Right.
Where we live, right?
Yeah, no. I think that's definitely where I met you.
Yeah, and, one night we wake up, there's people arguing out on the street
in Elmer.
I mean, they were all drunk, not in Elmer, in Pittsgrove.
Oh,
okay.
Okay.
Yeah, they pulled a couple carloads, pulled over, they're out there arguing, and I guess they were drunk or something. They were arguing about something out there, making a bunch of noise, right, and everything. And, my wife, Lynn, she goes, oh, we ought to call the cops. And I said, yeah, well, okay, call the cops. I'm going to go out there and see what's going on. She goes, you ain't going to go out there. What, you're going to get hurt? I said, what are they going to do to me?
Yeah, I mean, really, though. And to be honest, outside people kind of diffuse fights a lot of the time. Not all the time.
Right.
But
I mean, I didn't, they had left before I got out there, but,
Exactly, because they don't, it's embarrassing.
Yeah.
People don't want to be fighting in public most of the time. Again, it's not an across-the-board thing, but...
Nah, but most of the time, something like that was probably over something stupid, and I'm sure they seen somebody coming, and they were like, well, oh, geez, this kind of is dumb, let's get out of here.
Yeah, exactly. But that's one of the biggest issues with, violence. So, we're going back to...
We keep digressing, don't we?
Well, that's the whole idea. It's a lot of digressing. I think we're getting a big picture of Harry. You know what I mean? A full...
Yeah, I guess.
How old were you when you grew this awesome beard that you got?
Oh, I don't know. Jeez, I started growing my beard a while ago. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I cut it off not off, but I trim it down and all that stuff.
He's got an amazing beard, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, it's got gray in it and white and all that good stuff. You know what I mean?
It's got wisdom. His beard has wisdom.
Yeah, but I don't know. I mean,
so
where else do we want to go?
No, well, we were talking kind of about like advice you were giving to like your 23-year-old self, kind of, but we'll take this back to like the music thing. So, growing back in the 70s, the 60s, what was it like going to concerts back then? Like, tell us about like some of your first concert experiences, or one that sticks out in your head.
Well, let me see. Let me give you this little line. I've heard this several times. You know, if you grew up in the 60s and 70s, if you remember growing through it, you weren't there. But
that's a good point. That's a very good point.
But I do remember quite a bit of it. But as far as interesting, I mean, I would say interesting concerts. Let's say that I really didn't necessarily go to because I was looking forward to it. It sounds bad, but it's not it's kind of hard to explain it that way. But it was just like, oh, hey, let's go see these guys. What the heck? We ain't doing nothing.
Yeah, exactly. It was more like it's just like going to the movies kind of thing.
Oh yeah, and I went to go see with a girl that I was dating at the time, which. That's another story in my life too, but we went to go see Sly and the Family Stone.
Okay.
And I will say one thing that was a very interesting concert. I mean, and I don't.
Was it the performance or was it just
everything? Everything. I mean, the guys. Sly's performance was awesome. I mean. Like most any other concert you see. I mean, and they were a very good, tight band. Their presence was great. I mean, it was great. And the audience, which, you know, I don't want to sound like I'm a bigot or anything like that, but I mean, we were probably in the minority of, you know.
It was a mostly
whites.
Black crowd.
Yeah, it was mostly a black crowd. So
I don't know Sly and the Family Stones. Is it mostly like a black artist or?
Yes, he's a black artist. And
okay.
He was, I mean,
well, music.
Look him up sometime.
Music was very
good music. Really
music
good music
was very segregated back then, though. Like, I mean, not very. It was becoming. Okay.
I don't know if it was particularly segregated. I can't say that. I'm just saying that he probably had more of a following of that.
Okay, right.
Okay, let's say that. You know, more. He was followed more by blacks than he was whites.
Mm-hmm.
But he was followed by both. You know, and he was a good artist. He really was. I mean, it sounds crazy. Sometime look him up and listen to some of his music. He was kind of a jazzy, kind of funky. Early funk. It was kind of like an early funk.
Yeah, okay.
You know, is what it was. You know, and it was good music. But I mean, and the crowd was just receptive. There wasn't any. You know.
They just knew every song.
Well, no. But I mean, even like the crowd.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, like I said, they were mostly black, but they didn't view me as that, and
it was just super accepting. Yeah.
Yes, I mean, we just, you know, it was kind of like.
No, music is a very unifying thing. As a white person that makes black music, I mean, like, I mean, not black music. I make hip-hop music, which is an inherently black... Rock and roll is an inherently black genre at first. You know what I mean?
That's right.
Like, they're both adaptations of things.
Well, it came from the blues, and the blues is basically, you know, kind of like a southern kind of black soul music. I mean, you know... I can't remember all the names, and that's another thing I used to play them for John. I used to go, hey, listen to these guys. This is where it all started, you know. But, again, I digress. But it was an interesting concert. Let me see. I'm going to figure another one. But like I said, I was amazed at that one, not only because Sly's performance was good, but also the crowd. I mean, the crowd did not. At first, I was a little tense, but
they were super accepting.
They were super accepting,
and that's like.
So I was like one of them. It didn't really matter to them what my color
just
was.
loved music.
It really didn't matter. I was there to listen to the music. They were too, and they accepted me because of that.
That's beautiful. I think that's amazing. I don't think that there's
good.
like I don't think that there's anything more beautiful than people that don't normally, like back then in the 70s, it wasn't the way it is today.
No.
And the fact is that music opened the door to you to new experiences. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like
music brought people together, I think.
And still does.
Still does, yes. Because I noticed that with you guys, with going with you and John to some of these places where, you got guys that are playing rock.
Mm-hmm.
But they're also listening to rap or the hip hop.
Yeah,
or
exactly.
And enjoying it also. I mean, it's kind of like, a whole mix of things.
I just love music, exactly.
So that's all it is. And then I went to go see...
so on to this next concert.
I went to go see a group called... It was a play on Duke Ellington. I don't know if anybody knows who he is.
I know,
kind of like a jazz pianist or whatever. I think he was.
He was a pianist. I think. Right.
So
he had that raspy voice.
Yeah,
right?
and it was kind of jazzy kind of stuff that he played. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there was a group of guys that did kind of like a spoof. I guess you wouldn't call it a spoof, but a kind of a spoof on that. And they called themselves, it was Duke Wellington and the Extremes.
Mm-hmm.
And they did it was like a Motown group, and they did like a Motown thing.
That's cool.
They had three front men, that done all the singing, and they had the choreographed dancing and all that. And that was another time we went, we ain't doing nothing. Hey, dude, there's something happening at the Spectrum. So let's go up there. That's another thing, too. Back then, I mean, for $10 you could buy a ticket. I mean, it's
Yeah, that's right. Nobody goes out anymore, and it's all because of the pricing. Everything is so much more expensive now, and like even if it was $10 more, if I could go out and see somebody for $20, and you can sometimes once in a while, a mid-sized act will come around to Philly, and you'll be able to see them for like $20.
Right.
But like most of the time, if you really want to see somebody that's even got any kind of name for themselves, you're paying hundreds of dollars. You're going to an arena, and even if you get like an $80 ticket, you're behind like a cinder block wall.
Yeah, it's terrible.
It's not worth it. It became like, that's the thing, is arena rock.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like it was different club, like every artist I've talked to, like, or has seen interviews with, not talked to, would prefer clubs, but arenas are just where the money is. I mean, if you can sell out one, you're rich.
You make more money, yeah.
And in the clubs, usually you have to bring your own equipment. You have to bring you're putting yourself at more of a risk, just carrying your stuff around the country. It's
yeah. But we went to go see them,
mm-hmm.
and I hate to keep going back. I was just
no, go back, yeah.
But it's
take your time. We're digressing all over.
It's so they were doing, had the three frontmen. So, they would go back and change different costumes and stuff like that. It was kind of, one of those deals. And so they came out with one thing, and they had these white zoot suits on.
Mm-hmm. It's a zoot
all white.
suit.
Well, it's like bell bottom kind of pants.
Oh, like the old 70s, like bell bottom, like with
bell bottom, but they had like their jackets. They were suit jackets.
Yeah, and they're
they were longer suit jackets. They weren't up here. They were kind of longer, like kind of almost down to the knees. Kind of, that's what they used to call them, zoot suits.
Interesting. Okay.
And of course, that came from the 20s. The zoot suit actually did.
The zoot suits from the 20s.
Actually, yeah. But anyway, so they had them on, and they had like black shirts.
Okay.
White ties. And they had these big, wide brim white hats on.
Wow, nobody dresses like that anymore. Yeah. Nobody's got the style like that anymore.
But so they came out doing their thing, the choreography. The lights all went down, black lights came on, and all you seen was the suits dancing.
Wow.
You didn't see their faces, didn't see their hands, their feet. All you seen was the white suits because of the black light. And it was just cool. You know what I mean? Of course, then again, I guess you had to be a little hot. But that, and then and a concert John wanted me to tell you about.
Okay.
John goes, oh, you got to tell him about that. But,
John, I know he sent me a list of stuff he wanted us to discuss, but I think this is going very well. I think this is natural. So, what did John want to talk? What concert did John want to talk about?
I seen David Bowie in Philly.
Really? You saw a Bowie? How was that?
That was pretty good. I seen him in, what was the one? I think it was Young Americans ones, I believe.
That's so cool.
I seen him when he did that album. That was at the Tower Theater. I don't think that did the Tower change or something. I think.
Is it?
Or did they just took the Tower thing down?
I don't think it. I think it changed. I definitely think there's still a Tower Theater. I'm not positive.
I think it changed, but I think they took the tower down. Why they used to call it the Tower because it had a radio tower on it. All right.
It's still called the Tower Theater in Delaware County. That's where my family's from, actually.
Oh yeah.
Delaware County. Yep.
Yeah, but I seen him there, and the cool thing about that is, like I said earlier, that me and John used to go out and buy used albums. So, we're at one place buying used albums. Mm-hmm. I'm looking through, oh, David Bowie, and I picked it up, and here it is. It was recorded live in Philadelphia at the Tower Theater.
Wow.
I said, no shit, look at that. I said, so, I had to buy it. I mean, it wasn't that much money.
Yeah,
it was not like it was, it was
but
like...
still, like...
And I said, that's cool. And the coolest thing about that, too, and there's stories like this throughout, my wife's life, our lives together,
mm-hmm.
that keep coming up. Well, not anymore. We kind of know them all now. After 40 years, but early in our relationship, sometimes we would talk about it and go, and so I remember talking about, because she was also she was a Bowie fan. My wife was a pretty big Bowie fan.
Right.
And
you got to be.
I was kind of a Bowie fan too. You know what I mean?
He's a little soft for your taste, though. He seems.
No, but his earlier stuff is a little bit like when he was like Ziggy Stardust.
Yeah, exactly. That's
the Man Who Sold the World and all that stuff. I mean, that's it. The lyrics and the premise of all the songs.
His ideas is yeah. Well, that's why I love Bowie. Is like his whole concept albums. I love concept albums. I love Pink Floyd. I love Sgt. Pepper's. I love Ziggy Stardust. I love.
Oh yeah, that stuff was cool.
I love big weird projects.
But me and my wife, I was talking about. We were talking about concerts that we went to, and she goes, "Oh yeah." She goes, "Oh, I seen Bowie in Philly." I said, "Really?" I said, "I seen him in Philly too at the Tower." She goes, "Yeah." So, it was just weird that I guess me and her believed that together. Somewhere along the line we weren't together. This is before I even met her. You know what I mean?
Wow.
And I believe so.
Good taste in music brings people together.
Well,
though.
none of that. Me and her kind of believe somewhere along the line. If anybody believes in fate or something, what you would call it, that we were sooner or later going to meet, because there's a lot of things that we kind of talked about. And I was there that night, or
really, that's interesting.
And there was one thing where, what the hell was? I was at a bar playing pool. We're sitting there drinking. Man, I don't know if I was I forget what was actually going on, but I started, being a jackass. I guess how I would describe it. You know what I mean? And poking at this girl with I was playing pool, and she'd walk by her. She was sitting there, and I kept kind of
mm-hmm.
poking her with the pool stick. Why? I don't know. Don't ask me. Again, drinking's doesn't always help your communication skills, but
some people it's their only communication skill. Right.
And then I didn't know who she was, and then one day after we met and everything.
Mm-hmm.
She has this, I'm looking at. She's got this jacket, this leather jacket with these fur collar in it, and I went, "That was you, wasn't it?"
What?
I said, "That was you," in that bar, wasn't it? And she goes, "Yeah," And she goes, "Oh, you were, and you were the jerk, huh?"
Yeah.
But all in all, she's still married. We've been together for that long. But
so, You almost blew it your first night, but I mean that's.
Well, I didn't even know her then.
That's
I mean,
what
that
I'm
was
saying,
that was
yeah.
even just something, you know. I mean, you know.
So do you believe in fate like that? Do you think that it was meant to be? I mean, you've been through a lot in your life, and
I don't know whether it's actually. Sometimes I think it's got to be. I mean, it's got to be because. Why would you wind up where you are, or why would you? I mean.
I agree.
Did you think we
right.
really have any control where we're going?
Not, to be honest. The older I get, the less I think we have any fucking control.
I think if you wind up at a point, say, I mean, and you maybe you have to be smart enough to realize, oh, this is the way I'm going.
Yeah, but
you know what I mean. I think we. How should I put this? You can probably. I was thinking about this the other day. How did I want to say this? You could probably pick where you want to go, or but you can't always pick your vehicle, or you know what I mean. You can't.
Life is a journey, not a destination.
That's right.
Like I definitely think, but like certain things in my life, even like. Sad things like losing my mother, I would never ever would be making music with John if that didn't happen. That whole thing came because of tragedy again, and John wouldn't be making music if he didn't get with me in the way that we are, if he didn't get in that car accident.
Well, you
probably.
don't know though,
and we don't. We'll never know.
I mean, because you guys grew up together.
We did, yeah, and we never who knows? It's just.
Well, that's the whole thing. Who knows? I mean, who really does know? I mean, it's just insane. I mean, to really think, and then.
But I mean, you being around your wife like that. I mean, it's a small town, so maybe well,
she was actually from a place. 20 miles away from where I live.
Okay, so she wasn't from around here.
She was from Newport.
Okay.
And I was from Malaga. I mean,
you're local.
Yeah, I'm local. Yeah, more or less. But I mean, there's got to be somewhat part of fate that just the way it is. I mean, and it's kind of terrible when you think about it. I mean, is it really fate that bad things happen to us?
Yeah, I mean, is it? But what if good things come out of the bad? What if the bad thing had to happen for the good thing to happen?
Well,
it's got to get bad before it gets good. I don't know.
But where does it all go? I mean.
Who knows?
I don't know how many years ago again. How old would he be? Probably, 60 now. We had a son years ago that died of cancer.
Really?
Yeah. So.
I did not know that. I'm
sorry. Me and my wife been through a lot of.
Apparently, I mean, holy.
Ups and downs. You know what I mean? And that's it's kind of like. We made it through it. It was tough. You know what I mean?
I can only imagine. I mean, just with your children, like most people, their worst fear is something happened to your children, and you've experienced
twice, I guess.
Twice.
I mean, that was my thing. I said, when it happened to John too, I was like, man, I can't believe this. That
right.
2 sons. I'm going to,
Yeah.
I didn't, when it all happened, I didn't know whether he was going to make it or not.
It was touch and go for a long time.
For a while, but, but I mean, these are the things that make you,
a man. I mean, you.
Well, you just got to keep going. I mean, it's.
Yeah.
What do you know? I mean,
that's the advice I give everybody when they ask me how I do it. You just keep going.
You just got to do it.
And some days you just got to try a little harder than others because it's harder. I
mean, that's, I guess I've heard a lot of people say, it's hard to find my way in life. It's just this and I don't know about that. But, I don't know, like with my father was Amish. So I have kind of some of that kind of work ethic in me, in the fact that,
Yeah, your father was Amish. That is crazy.
My father was Amish.
And he got the beard going on.
He was excommunicated from him because he left and he can't go back. And there was times when we actually, he would take us up to like around Lancaster County and all that, and he would go, oh, yeah, this is a little schoolhouse I went to. This is that. This is, and I go, oh, how about we go talk to these people? Well, no.
They can't talk.
And he never really explained it until later on in life. That's the worst part, too. That's the worst part. I will say that with my, to the kids. I mean, well, but.
Yeah.
But
I'm
the
still...
kids, it's just that, I think that, the parents have, the kids should also try and think of what the parents are saying and realize that, they've been through life a lot. They've been where they are.
Mm-hmm.
I was a kid, so I know, like I said, like, when, stuff that John would do, stuff that you would do, I would go, hey, I was a kid.
You're good at remembering. Some people don't seem to remember what it was like being a kid. Like, you recognize things, like, when people make new music and stuff, like, you're a person that's like, it's just what they were doing back when I was a kid. It's just the same thing. Same argument.
And, I feel bad because, I used to remember days when, like my dad would get mad at me and punish me or whatever, and I would be pissed, I'd be like, man.
Your dad probably grew up real strict.
Oh, well, he was raised strict. He didn't raise, I don't think he raised me as strict as he was raised.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? But he was strict. He was very strict.
Wow.
It was like, if he told you something, he wasn't telling you twice.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If he said to you, don't do that, and you did it, your ass was in trouble. And I don't want to, I know it's not politically correct.
No.
All that, but that's, that's the kind of stuff that would happen. And he wouldn't tell you the second time. He wouldn't go, oh, you did it, I warned you. He wouldn't say that.
Did that change the way you think you interacted with John? Maybe when John did something wrong? Like your interactions with your father?
Yes, only because that sometimes I would lose my temper, and I would I think I would regress into that, how I was raised, with the getting angry about it, and, and getting like my father would. And then there was times when, I would start to get there and go, oh, and
you stop
and
yourself.
Remember and go, well, I didn't like that, and try and do it some other way. But,
my dad and my mom were both very angry at times, and I think part of when I react angry, I think it's them, and then when I stop myself, it's me trying to not be them when I'm... And I love my parents, don't get me wrong. It's not like anything like that, but it's hard recognizing that...
Well, it's just something that's built into you. It's hard to explain, but you have to almost be... You have to try and know yourself. And that's the hardest thing you could ever do in life, is try and know yourself. Know really who you are and what you do,
and how you tick.
And how you tick. I look at myself and I just have to realize sometimes that, like, I'm not, how should I put this? But I'm kind of like a worker,
You definitely are a hardworking guy.
But it's just what I do. It's just, I'm good at working with my hands. I'm good at making stuff. I'm good at...
It makes you happy, doesn't it?
Well, I enjoy doing it. It sounds crazy.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
I enjoy doing it, and sometimes I ask
There's a lot of honor in craftsmanship, and to be honest, that's something that kind of comes from Amish people too. Like, there used to be a lot of honor in making a chair. Now you just buy a chair. You know what I mean? And to an extent, like, it's good that everybody can just get a chair now. But along the way, there's an art form that might not be there.
There's an art form. It's everything like that. Everything's got an art form. What you guys do, it's and like I said, my dad, he was a very simple man. He also was very good with his hands. He was I guess I got it from him.
Mm-hmm.
Both me and him were very mechanically gifted, I guess is how you should put it.
Yeah, technical, mechanical. Yeah.
I can pretty much, fix a lot of shit. You know, I mean, when I went, the job that I have now that I've had for 20 years, I mean, I remember saying to the guy, he goes, well, what can you do? We were building 2 big buildings, you know. He goes, what, you know, what's your talents? What can you do? I said, you know, give me a blueprint and a pile of material, and I'll build you anything. I don't care what it is, a pile of steel, pile of block. I don't care.
Really?
I said, you know, your blueprint. You look at the blueprint. How this piece goes here, and that's, and I mean, and you know, and I think I learned a lot of that from my father. You know, just somehow inherently it kind of passed on to me. The fact of realizing not only the materials I need to do that job, but also the tools that I need to do that job.
And the skills along with it, yeah.
And the skills along with it to be able to do that. You know, that's crazy too. I guess I see that in John too, knowing what he needs to do, what he does. Or
yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Like you as a person are very good at putting things together, really. Like and it's like a casual way of putting things together. You know what I mean? You see a lot of construction people or people that are mechanically inclined, and they're stressed all the time. You know, they're running around. You know,
I've been doing it for almost 50 years. I ought to be.
Yeah, exactly.
I ought to know something. I mean, at that point, you know what I mean? And that's, you know, it's a joke. Well, that's a joke I use with the other guys. They say, "Oh, yeah, no, yeah. How'd you figure that out?"
50 years.
I've been doing it for 50 years. What? You know, I mean, you know.
So how does it feel? Like you are retiring soon, I believe, correct? Or you're not positive? You don't got it.
I living in the beautiful state of New Jersey.
Yeah.
Is
expensive.
It's expensive. But I like it here. I mean, you know, I like where I live. You know, so I mean, it's kind of one of those give and take things. You know.
Right.
I mean, physically, I'm probably still able to do what I can do. You know what I mean? And I like what I do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, that's a lot of people's problem. Is some people are in careers that they know that they're gonna shorten their lifespan. Going there, like, you seem happier though.
Well, I think since I got older and since as you get older, I think you tend to, I shouldn't say care less, but I think you come along with the realization that, you know, you kind of already know what you're going, you know where you're going, you know what you're doing, you know what I mean? It's not, you know, there's no, or like it's at the end, you're not you're not pushing and shoving to get anywhere.
Yeah.
I mean,
you're just more going with the flow. Like,
it's kind of like, you know, you kind of realize, hey, you know, at this point in the game, well, you figure, like I said, I mean, I could retire or whatever. Trying to build a career and push myself above where I'm at now is kind of like a moot point.
Right. You accept where you are.
Yeah.
Right. What was that like? What was it like accepting some of the harder things in your life? Like.
Well, like, you know, with John, I mean, it was, you know, and again, like with John, it's you know, who the heck was I talking to the other day? They said something to me, or was it you? It might have been you.
It might have been me.
Somebody I was talking to, and they said, well, even just now, you said that, you know, I don't know how you really dealt with that, you know.
Yeah.
You know, so, and I said, but, you know, and I said, think about it, though. I mean, it's really not me. It's John. John's going through it, not me.
You're right.
You know what I mean? So, I mean, once, you know, if you look at it that way, I mean, that's a lot of friends. I mean, okay, all I have to do is I just got to be there and support him and what he does.
But that in itself can be a hard thing. It's a strong. It takes a lot of willpower to support somebody.
Well, and it takes a lot of your time. I mean, it really does. You know, and I'm not trying to glorify myself or nothing.
No, you definitely don't really sound like you're trying to make this sound like you. Believe me, Harry deserves all the credit in the world, and he's trying to make it sound like he doesn't. But I think you definitely go above and beyond. I mean, even here, you didn't have to come do this podcast today, and you just...
Yeah, I just figured it'd be fun.
It seems like it's going good, like I said.
You know, you ask my wife, she'll tell you, oh, Harry likes to talk anyway, but, you know.
Exactly, though. Like, and I think, again, people are going to hear this, and they're going to think, wow, like... It's a real crazy ride. Life is a crazy ride.
But you just got you got to go with it. A lot of times, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I don't know. I mean, the worst thing about life and the way it is now, and I'm sure, be it money or being it, if you had to grow your own food or do something else to sustain your life.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that used to drive me the craziest about everything and in life is that it doesn't matter what's going on in your personal life. It really doesn't matter.
No.
And just the way the world is, everybody wants to get paid.
Yeah.
And respect that, you know, you buy a house, you got a mortgage, you buy a car, you got to pay for the car. You got to pay for electric. You got to get food. You got to do this. You got to do that.
Taxes,
everything.
food
and
bills,
you know
car
what?
payments,
They don't
insurance.
care what's going on in your personal life. And
yeah,
it's a hard realization, but you know what? You know, you can't blame them and you can't blame society because that's just how it is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They do cut you some leeway, though. I mean, I will say that.
If you're honest with people, I do think they cut you leeway. But you are like there's a book. It's called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, and in one of the chapters, he talks about that it's important. It's not that it's your fault. It's not that like you lost John. Like John became paralyzed, right?
Right.
It's not your fault that happened, but you are responsible for how you deal with it.
Right.
You know, like no matter what your circumstance, no matter how bad it is, you are responsible
for how you deal with it
and moving forward. Most of
right.
all.
Well, but not only that, but I mean, the point I was trying to make when I lost my first son years ago, which was probably back in 83.
83. Wow. So John never experienced anything like that.
No.
Wow.
So, like I said, that's when I came to realization because my wife was he was in the hospital for a long time and all that and I would work and go up to the hospital whenever I could. A lot of times I would work and go up there at night, then come back home, go to sleep, and go back to work. Fortunately, at the time I had my own business going, so I had a little bit more leeway and room to move around. You know what I mean? As far as time.
But that's got to be so stressful on a person.
Yeah, but the thing I realized at that point there, I mean, there's people calling me like, oh, hey, you know, this is due, you know, that's due, you know, and like, you know, and. Not that I'm ignorant about all that stuff, but my wife, even to this day, she takes care of all that. Bless her soul.
Yeah,
I gotta love that woman for that.
Mm-hmm.
But
I got a good girl that helps me out in my business too.
She takes care of all the bills. You know what I mean? I just bring her the money. That's.
It's old school.
Yeah, that's how
my dad and mom were.
Yeah. And from that point on, I just you know, it doesn't matter. They didn't care.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember telling them, look, you know, my son's in the hospital. He's got cancer, and they would be, you know, they would be sympathetic, and they would go, well, look, you know.
Yeah.
You know, they wouldn't be nasty to me or nothing. You know, I mean, don't get me wrong. But
What kind of cancer, if I can ask?
What's that?
What kind of cancer?
Leukemia.
Okay, so bone cancer. See, my dad.
Blood.
Blood. My dad died of colon cancer.
Right. Yeah.
So that.
That's a very. Cancer's a
scary thing. Yeah.
It's
a slow, painful thing.
And I mean, it's. And even then, I mean, I don't know whether it was. I mean, my son when he was going through that. I mean, he was very.
How old was he when he passed away?
7.
7.
Yeah. He was he was strong about the whole thing. I mean, he was very, so that was, I think that was a saving grace to it in that respect, because I remember being in Children's Hospital with him and seeing other kids that
weren't handling it.
That weren't handling well, and I wouldn't say all of them or a lot of them. I mean, but you see some of these kids, in that situation. I mean, they're in total fear. I mean, and panic.
Grown adults are. If I was diagnosed with cancer, I'd be fucking shitting myself.
And it's just like, you look at that and you go, gee whiz, I mean, I'm just glad that, I'm glad that my son is handling that, and he ain't, crying about it. He would still get out and do stuff. You know what I mean? He would,
Really?
Oh yeah, he would, and he would still go about doing whatever he had to do. So.
What's a good memory you have of your son and your wife before things got? How old was he when he was diagnosed, if I can ask?
5.
5.
Yeah.
So before that, how was it?
Oh, he was a good kid. I mean, he, it's just that, crazy stuff. Like I kind of had my own business. I was doing my own thing, and I remember one time my wife came and dropped him off where I was working, and I was like, I was working on scaffold probably, I don't know, 25, 30 feet in the air.
I hate heights.
Yeah.
I can't do heights.
And she came back to pick him up, and I had him up on the scaffold.
Wow.
She was probably ready to divorce me at that point, but
that would have been.
She's like, "What is wrong with you? Why would you ever do that?" You know? And I'm like, "What? At least I know where he's at." I mean, my opinion was,
he wasn't going anywhere.
Well, if he was down on the ground or something, I mean, he was in more danger on the ground with something falling than he was. I mean,
Yeah. Okay. I see that.
He wasn't going to jump off the scaffold.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to let. I mean.
Yeah.
I was pretty sure he wasn't going to fall. I mean. I'm sure if you.
That is a dad move.
Yeah, well,
that is a very dad move.
Stuff like that. I mean, I don't know. I've probably done dumb stuff like that with John too. I mean.
So how did it feel like years later having? I mean, you had John how long later?
Oh, many years.
Yeah,
later.
like
What,
John's a year older than me, and your first.
He was born in 95. Right?
90, yeah, 95 year older than me.
So it was 10 years later.
10 years later, how did that feel? Did it feel like it was?
I don't know. That's tough. I mean, it's just I guess it was kind of. Almost like, hey, it's starting all over again, which was probably a good thing. It was probably good for me at that point.
Yeah, no, it sounds like I mean, if I lost, I'm glad that you got to have, a child. You know what I mean? Like, you definitely are a good enough person to bring another person into the world, and I don't just say that to people. Most people aren't qualified to have children.
Well, but it's tough. I mean, parents are. I mean, sometimes I honestly, and I've already said this to John before time. I say, hey, I know that sometimes maybe I wasn't the best dad or something like that. You know what I mean? Only because I'm sure there was times when in his life. I mean, when he was younger and, started with his teenage angst and all that stuff, that he thought I was,
That's every kid. That's every kid.
Yeah, yeah.
You
realize that after a while.
You want your kid to rebel a little bit, You don't want them to be little, kind of a pushover. You want them to have a little bit of fun. You just don't want them to get in trouble when they do it. And I think...
I think what it is you try, you want the best for them. Like I say again, you don't want them to get in trouble. You don't want anything to happen to them. And
you want them to be better than you.
Yes. So, so you tend to, I think you tend to kind of get angry, and I don't know who you're angry at, but I mean,
it's probably both. You're mad at yourself. You're mad at them. You're mad at something you can't control.
Yeah, either that or you're just mad just plainly because you can't get through. You can't get it through their head.
I mean, I deal with that with I have custody of Alex, and that's
right, yeah.
difficult. And I mean, we argue about dumb things like dishes and shit like that. But
yeah,
we have a good relationship and everything. He's just like, I feel for my parents more now, having dealt with another human being. Like, and not to saying that my brother's bad or anything, because he's really not at all, besides like not doing the dishes, but like,
yeah, but it's just the thing, you're trying to instill something upon him.
It's so hard to,
and it's hard. How do you do that?
To imprint well on people. Like, you have to set a good example all the time.
Yeah, well,
and that means you got to be aware. First off, you have to be aware enough of what you're doing to set a good example. You have to be thinking. You have to be.
Well, the best times I spent with my father, okay, I mean, I had good times when we were younger too. He used to do stuff too, but the best times I probably spent with my father was when I was older.
Mm-hmm.
I had a son of my own. I had a house I was paying for, and wife and the whole package or whatever you want to call it, and the best times I have with my father is probably going over to going to his house, sitting there and having coffee with him and just bullshitting with him.
It's the little things.
Yeah. And probably because at that time in my life, now I'm starting to realize the old man wasn't all that wrong.
When my dad got diagnosed and he was dying, we had a lot of times like that. Like, I think, because he was always a hard guy. He worked 7 days a week. He worked every day. He owned his own laundromat, everything like that. He would come home at like 5 o'clock and then pass out like every day.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't really have that much going on. And then he got diagnosed to the second time and his life stopped. It's basically almost over, and there's nothing he can do about it. He's got to be bedridden. And I started changing his IV bags and stuff, and then that's how we kind of bonded, was because he was kind of like at the end, I guess. It's harder, I think, when you're caught up in life.
Oh yeah.
Certain things, I guess for me, things happen to me young, so I have a different perspective than other people.
I tell you, I'm surprised you're getting. I mean, you're.
Yeah, I do.
You're getting through it pretty well.
I try. It's like I said, like you said, it's just every day you just kind of try a little better.
Well, you just gotta. You got to go on. I mean, that's all it really comes down to, right? I mean,
yeah, exactly. And that's what it is. Is life goes on, and it's hard, but it gets easier if you try every day.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Just like you got caught in a rut of depression, you can get caught in a good rhythm and be happy again too.
Well, I mean, I don't know where this fits into context or not, but I used to have a friend.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I still.
He's still your friend.
He's still my friend. I don't talk to him. Most of the friends I grew up with are moved away from the area, except for one. But I haven't talked to a lot of my friends that I grew up with. Probably, I would say, for 20 years, believe it or not. I probably communicated with him a little bit, but as far as actually, hanging out with him and, on a regular basis, it's been 20 years or better.
That's what happens. I mean, even I'm young and I still don't, have friends I don't see every day.
But one of my friends, his favorite saying was, I mean, if you never had any bad times, you wouldn't know what a good time was, and just.
It's true though.
Yeah, and there's more bad times than there is good times. So.
And you see it in like spoiled people. You know what I mean? The people that have had the most sheltered, secluded lives, like the littlest thing throws them so off.
Tailspin, yeah.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Like that's the thing. Is it's for in some ways, tragedy is always, I think, looking for somebody. It's always gonna come.
Well, I think no matter who you are and no matter what you think or how I don't know, or how charmed your life, I don't know. but there's always tragedy in somebody's life. There's always something that's going to come along and kick you in the butt.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And again, like you said earlier, I mean, it all depends how you deal with it. Is what defines you.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? As a person or where you're going. You know?
Yeah, like it's those times that really define people, I think.
Yeah.
Like when the chips are down, you know, you can do whatever.
Well, what are you gonna do? Are you gonna quit? I mean, that's,
yeah,
you know,
exactly.
You can't. I mean, really.
You really can't.
You just kind of got to scoop everything back up and do what you got to do. You know, I mean, that's.
Yeah, I definitely think it's kind of the point of the podcast too. It's about talking about people that. Talking about life.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that I'm sure that you think about as far as life goes and what we think we ought to do in life, and some things that I think about, and some things that I feel that I've done in my life, and you know, and I look back and I go, geez, you know, that was kind of cold. But you know, but it's something just had to be, and it necessarily wasn't cold, but you know, I mean, it's just something that.
No, you have to put your foot.
You just have to do it.
I've had people in my life that I know I can't be around because they're not gonna build me up.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I don't wish bad on those people just because, like, there's a quote, just because I don't want to eat, like, just because I don't want to eat with you doesn't mean I don't ever want to see you eat again.
Right.
And it's kind of like that. I can't.
That's a good analogy. I like that.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's a good way to.
Well, it's just like anything. I mean, I told John and all my kids. I remember John. Oh, you know, this person did this. I said, look. I said, you got to remember. I said, you know, and you know, he'd be all, you know, to be all mad and hating and stuff. Like I said, you can't hate him. I said, you know, okay. If you dislike what they've done, okay, you dislike what they've done.
Yeah.
But you can't let what they did build hatred in you, because you know what? People are people. They're going to do whatever they're going to do. There's no control what you do over that person.
As soon as it stops bothering you, you know, fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate, hate leads to the dark side. It's what Yoda says.
Right.
Like, it's a cycle. It's a cycle. You know, you don't understand somebody. You know, you're scared of them. Then you're mad at the fact that you don't get it, and then you just down. Eventually, you don't hate. You just.
Well, you really can't hate them. You can't hate because it. Why hate?
Yeah, it's too much energy.
No, it is. It's way too much. You ain't got no time for that.
Exactly. It's too short. Life.
I mean, if anything, that's what I've. You know, as you get older, you realize I just don't have the energy for it. I don't have the energy to hate anybody. I mean, if I don't like what you're doing.
You're just done with it.
I'm just done with it. I'm just not gonna. Why?
Yeah.
You know, what I mean, it's you know, and I hope you don't hate me for that. I mean, you know,
I
not you, but I mean the person.
Everybody,
you know,
it's
you know, it's just that's it. I'm, you know, and.
I think that philosophy you have is part of why you've had such an easygoing, you know, existence. You know, and maybe you weren't like that when you were a kid, but you know, life is about shaping yourself. You know, if you're the same if I'm the same as I am 10 years in the future, I've wasted 10 years. You know what I mean?
You can't let the stuff in your past. You can't don't wash it aside. I mean,
no, yeah, you can't.
There's a lot of things in your past that
made you. Yeah, exactly.
You
yeah,
know?
you can't run from your past. You definitely can't run from your past, and the you have to accept it is really the secret. There's no running from it. There's no denying it. There's no fighting with it. There's no changing it.
Yeah, and you ain't gonna change it.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, you just gotta hope that things you did in your past don't screw up your future. You know, what I mean, that's the worst part. You know, what I mean, there's things that I've done in my past that I know still haunt me to this day. I mean, things that happened
years ago.
I mean, decades ago.
Everybody's got regrets.
You know, and I think about it from time to time. You're like, you know, gee whiz, you know, and there's things where like I want to do maybe, and I think back and I go, well, you know, because I did that, am I going to be able to do this? Because And a lot of times I won't do something else,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because what I did in the past, and I mean I know it's probably still somewhere floating around, you know, in some kind of paperwork, but you know, and go, you know, if I go and do that, I mean, is that going to rear its ugly head, you know, and you know.
I mean, yeah.
I mean, like I said, I was never. I mean, I was no angel when I was young. I mean,
Who wants to be, right?
No, who wants to be? But you know, and like I said, it's just again getting back to that thing. You know, like younger guys, you just got to be smart about what you do. You know, I mean, just you know, I mean.
And that's a good lesson for everybody. Honestly, you're like, I think that advice goes a long way, because you're not telling them don't do crazy things, don't live life. You know, you're telling them don't be stupid with it.
Hey, don't be stupid. Don't get carried away with yourself. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
when people get in trouble.
Know when to stop. Like, again, like it's about limits. And I like my dad told me when he found out I smoke pot. He was like, I've tried drugs. Okay, I've done drugs in my life, and every time I've ever been given drugs, I've done half of what they told me to do, and then I saw if I felt okay, and then I never did it the next day. Ever.
Right.
And I've followed that method in my life, and I haven't had a problem. And that's not gonna work for everybody, but it's good advice, because when you're telling kids no, don't do it, just say no to drugs, I think they're as soon as they go out and they ignore that, then all of a sudden they can't trust you anymore. You know what I mean?
Well, or they find out, oh, well, you've done drugs.
Yeah, or they find,
you know what I mean?
They're like, or if you tell them like pot's bad, it's gonna ruin your life, and then they try it and they're like, well, he smokes pot, his life is fine. He smokes.
Well, no, never mind.
No, go ahead.
I mean.
Go ahead.
I mean, I don't want everybody to hear this, but you know, or John's probably going to hear it. But anyway, I would rather see my kids smoke pot than drink.
I completely agree. I don't drink very much, but I do smoke pot.
And the problem with pot is that it's illegal. And I mean,
though that's exactly, that being a problem isn't a pot problem.
And you know, from my time in the past, I mean, that's the stuff, like I said, I was talking about earlier. I mean, that's the stuff that haunts me, because you know I was arrested a couple of times for pot, and I've seen, you know, crazy things go on with that.
Now, see, like that's crazy. Have you ever thought of yourself as like? Now, I know your generation doesn't think of yourselves like this, but my generation is starting to. Like, do you ever think of yourself as like a protester of a stupid law? Like, do you ever, like Rosa Parks, she didn't get up off that bus because it was a stupid law that she was not answering to. You know, you got arrested for a law that pretty much everybody acknowledges is stupid.
Well, is it really stupid? You know.
Mm-hmm. Well, first off, do you think it's a stupid law?
Probably. But see, then how do you control it? I mean, that's
well, they
does
control.
It really? Well,
yeah.
Let's face it. I mean, I know a lot of potheads, and still to this day. I mean, I know guys that are my age. I know guys from my era that are still smoking pot. That are still, you know. Now, if you can function in life,
it's different.
It's okay. Well, I know guys that, you know, they smoke pot. They never get anything. They never do anything. They never get anything done.
Yeah,
blah, blah, blah,
it can become an excuse.
So I mean, but alcohol's the same way.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I mean,
if
alcohol,
not harder, considering the next morning.
That?
If not harder, considering like the next day. Because at least with pot, you don't wake up with a hangover. You know what I mean?
No.
Like, but alcohol is rough the next day.
Yeah, alcohol is rough the next day, and you know, alcohol is a little bit more mentally impairing, I think.
It makes you a little stupider.
Yeah,
like, more reckless is the word, not even stupid. I think.
You just don't give a shit.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
With pot, you care a little bit more. Actually, pot sometimes you're borderline.
You're paranoid. Yeah.
So I mean, you know, but it's just, you know, pot getting. Here's a funny story about pot.
Okay. We're going to wrap it up. We're at 1:30, so this is, I think, good in an hour and 30 minutes. So we're going to wrap it up after this story. I think it's a good place to end it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh,
Let's hear this funny story.
Maybe I will do this again. I'll tell you.
We will definitely do this again, but I want to hear the story first.
There's a story that John wanted me to tell you, but I don't remember the story quite that well, so I ain't going to tell that story. But this story here is I remember, and I think I told my wife the story. I hope I did, because if she listens to it, but anyway, it's kind of a goofy story, but.
Your wife's gonna hear the story for the first time.
No, I don't think so. I don't know if she is or not. I may have told her before. I probably did.
Oh, if you did, you got another thing to talk to after 43 years.
We went to Canada one time.
Okay.
Me and a few friends went up to Canada.
Canada's legal now too.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, back in the day when we went up there, it was pretty much legal. We were sitting in a sidewalk bar.
Mm-hmm.
There was a guy on stage, playing the piano and singing and all that.
Mm-hmm.
We were sitting down there right in front of the stage. We're sitting there smoking pot.
That's awesome. That's fun.
And then and the guy playing the piano looks down and goes, "Yo, hey." So we're handing the pot and the joint back and forth to the guy performing up on stage. That was pretty interesting, but so anyway, we hung out in Canada for a while and then we came home. Well, naturally crossing the border. Not too smart. We got pot in the fucking.
Yeah. You brought a little bit back, yeah.
No, we
brought it back, yeah.
Well,
okay.
we had grown a bunch. We were we used to do a lot of homegrown. Me and a few friends of mine and
cut costs.
I used to be really good shit too. But anyway, so we came back and we got caught and we got caught because a friend of mine, a guy that actually he was a Vietnam vet. That guy was. He was Was it that one? No, that was another time.
Mm-hmm.
I shouldn't say that too much. But anyway, so we got caught with a pot. Needless to say. One of the guys was with us. His bike was in the van.
Wow.
Okay. He didn't get caught. He didn't. The people that were driving the van took the fall. They said, "Okay, it's ours."
Okay, yeah. It's usually them that has to take.
Yeah,
the fall.
they took the hit. So they one guy that had his bike there, an old friend of mine. He he didn't have to stay. They didn't throw him in jail. And he got on his bike, loaded up his backpack and left. He wound up in Bar Harbor.
Okay.
We got caught in Vermont coming across.
Okay.
So he left. He headed to Bar Harbor. He hung out in Bar Harbor for a while, I guess, hippie shit. But anyway. And then, the rest of us got tossed into jail. And
So in Vermont, you got was it a Canadian jail or no Vermont? So America,
yeah,
okay.
Jail. But it was some little town. It was crazy. Some little town. This old guy, jailer, right?
Like an old movie.
Oh yeah.
Like he's just so
little town, right? So anyway, we get thrown in jail, spend the night in there. Wake up the next morning. Jailer, the guy running the jail comes in. Jerry goes, "Oh, all right, here, I got your breakfast." Opens up the jail cell. So, come on, it's out here. All right, we go out there. Sit down at the table, eat, and he goes, well, look. He goes, look, there's a notepad right there on the table. When anybody calls, take notes for me, will you? He goes, I'll be back. He leaves. Are you serious?
Wait, he left.
He left. Well, his thing was, you ain't going nowhere. They took your van.
Wow.
Where are you going to go? He goes, you ain't going to get out. I mean, this town, there's a little town. He goes, you're in the middle of nowhere.
You're not getting nowhere.
Where are you going?
He left.
So he left. And he made us his secretary. So,
Wow.
So he left. Comes back.
I've never heard anything like
oh yeah, I'm serious. It was crazy. Comes back, and an old guy too. I mean, he was probably at that time he was probably in his 60s. This old dude. So you would think that at that
he
time
was strict.
he would be like, oh, you fucking potheads.
Was this like the 70s? 70s?
Yeah, 70s. Yeah.
So oh yeah, this guy. You would expect this guy, old jailer, old hippies. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, he would.
Old jailer, young hippies.
He would think, you'd think he'd be trying to harass us, but. So anyway, we're like, what the hell, So anyway, so we did what he asked, we called, and then he comes back, and he goes, okay, well, you're going to go to court tomorrow morning, blah, 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 right? He goes, come on. Let's go get dinner. Come on, get in his car, drive, sightseeing with us, over here, look at this over here, this is blah, 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 and he's showing us the way around, all around the sites and everything up there, go to this nice restaurant, pays for dinner, all this stuff, comes back, and the funny part was we went to jail, the police station across the street, and had a pot plant growing inside.
Inside the jail.
Inside the police barracks across the street. I guess it was growing in there. They wanted to show, hey, this is what
pot looks like.
Pot looks like. I guess that's how they trained the cops. I don't know.
That's
they had
so
a pot
stupid.
plant growing in there, and we were laughing about that. We found that totally humorous.
That is hilarious.
Oh,
no.
Yeah. And then so anyway, so we go to court. We got to pay a fine. That's all. They didn't have to, they didn't, no jail time, just pay a fine. I forget what it was.
At least they slapped you around.
And then, so, we need money. Okay, well, I call friends down here, and I'm like, yo, dude, look.
I'm stuck.
This is where it's at. This is who wants it. Go get it. Bring the money to me. I got to get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, absolutely. I would be the same way.
So... Anyway, so we go to court. We know what we're doing, right? Come back. And again, the jailer's like, well, look. Your friends are coming. You know what you got to do. There's a pizza place across the street. They serve beer or whatever. Go ahead. You ain't going nowhere. So we're over there shooting pool, drinking beer, eating pizza. Having a good time. My friends arrived with the money to get us out. And they were pissed. They're like, we thought you were really in trouble. I said, dude.
I was.
And
Yeah.
he goes, they're like, what? You called us, you're over here partying. But, long story short, it's just that it was amazing. I mean,
wow. Yeah, no, that is an interesting story of getting arrested, because that's like a movie. It's like a short little detour type of movie where you just got stuck in this little joke town, and it reminds me of the one I never got caught by the cops. He said, knocking on wood, for smoking pot. But when me and Matt Hutchinson were in high school, this is a funny story. We were at a Bob Dylan concert. Now, Now, Bob Dylan is like fucking 80 years old at this point.
Oh, yeah, right.
He's on stage, and we have front row tickets because I used to work at Susquehanna Bank Center. And so we're front row, right in front of Bob Dylan. There's like 150 people here. This is like an empty show for Susquehanna Bank Center. And we smoked pot right in front of the stage, like right front there. And Rat went back to school on Monday, and Mr. Barry, the teacher, said that he was like, I saw you at Bob Dylan smoking pot with Max McCrary in the front row.
You're a kid.
Yeah, Rat said something smart to him, and he was just called Rat out like that, and Rat just got silent and just let it go. That's the one way to get caught, though.
Oh yeah. But
at least he was cool about it. At least both of our stories, at least they were cool about it.
They were cool about it all. But it's just like I said, But pot does kind of put you in that situation where there's other things going on when you're smoking pot and all that. So, I mean, that's again.
That's the danger.
That's the danger of it all, and it gets back to the thing of like like when I said you just gotta realize that
you gotta be smart.
You gotta be smart. Okay, you want to smoke pot? That's fine, but don't
be stupid.
Don't be stupid and let it lead to this and that. I mean,
absolutely.
Because I can tell you that. I mean, I know guys that were into doing, speed and well, they used to call it crank anyway, and they're dead.
If not, yeah.
They're dead now. I mean,
I've had too many people die from heroin. Now is what people are dying from.
For some reason, came back big time, didn't it?
Yeah, it's because of the pills, they say, but.
It's cheaper than.
We'll talk about that on a different episode. Thank you, Harry, so much for doing this.
This was fun, and I hope I didn't bore anybody.
No,
I hope I didn't talk too much.
They're gonna love this, and you're definitely gonna have to come back and do more.
All right, Max. Take care, man.
Thank you, Harry, and we will be back.